Hello everyone and welcome back to Southern Wealth. I hope you guys are doing very well. If you do enjoy the content, please consider dropping that like and subscribe. It greatly helps the channel, so thank you very much for your support. So, bonds have stabilized and finally are looking to start and rise. There's more probability for a rate cut than before, so the market has adjusted for it. Results, once again, quarterly results are almost entirely done. Were much better than people thought. Again, and so the whole prediction of economic collapse, doomsday, the end is coming, companies will struggle dramatically with the tariffs, is going to be the end, inflation is going to go to 10%, all of these things, none of it has happened. So fast forward 6-7 months and none of these predictions have happened. And now there are strong indications that the European conflict is coming to an end. And this was actually quite noticeable because I've actually mentioned this a while ago in some of my videos, which was some of the Western media things like BBC, Financial Times, were starting to report on massive corruption by Ukrainian top officials that have bags and bags and bags of US dollars at home, and I think one of them even had a golden toilet. So basically, those news start to come out, and my feeling was, okay, we are being allowed to know this to basically give reinforcement to the idea that we have to stop the conflict. So that seems quite likely now. I don't know about all the details with the plan. I've said this many times before, and I will say it again. My feeling is that by the end of all of this, give it 6-10 months after, maybe less, the US and Russia will sign some sort of rare earths deal to basically intertwine the economies and with that deter future conflict amongst the two nations. That's my feeling. We'll see if I'm right. I've had this feeling for almost a year now. I've said this often. I've said my feeling is that the US will have a deal with Ukraine and a deal with Russia, both around rare earths and critical minerals, sometime after the war has ended. Now, is it going to be 1 month after the war is ended? Is it going to be 12 months after the war is ended? That part I don't know. Okay, that's a pure guess. I don't know. That's my educated guess. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I guess we will see. It would be quite fun if I was right, because I would be the only one saying this, with all these thousands of professional journalists completely missing it. But we'll see. We'll see if that's the case or not. And this is also something that I've addressed in my previous videos. Every time you go on Twitter, every time you go on YouTube, every time, to be frank, you go on places like CNBC, you always are filled with a long list of potential terrible things that can happen that will derail the entire market. So what am I saying? There's always a bunch. For example, go back to 2023. Who remembers the commercial real estate crisis? You remember that? Oh, commercial real estate will come to refinancing at the end of the year, and it's more than $1 trillion, and it's going to bring down the entire real estate market, and we're going to have a financial crisis 2.0, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. And the commercial real estate came and gone. Nothing has happened. And we move on to the next parade of imaginary horribles. So if you go on any of these places, you are bombarded with a parade of imaginary horribles. Things that could happen so horrible that you cannot even fathom. And what I said, and what I've been saying for now years, is something to the nature of, why or what if you play that game on the other side? So let's say that the market is fairly stable and something like the resolution of the worst conflict since World War II happens. What happens? So instead of a parade of imaginary horribles, what about a parade of imaginary positives? Have you considered that? Because that works both ways. You see, I can come here and I can come with 10 theories of why things are going to go terribly wrong. And I can also come here and say, by the way, this can also happen on the positive side. Obviously, that positive scenario is never shown because it doesn't sell. It's not very clickbaity. It's not very appealing for tick and go and read. So that's why I don't see it. And that can happen. If that can happen, then inflation can really come down. If inflation really comes down, particularly also with the power of AI, which is extremely disinflationary and deflationary, maybe you can have more rate cuts than you initially expected. Maybe with a new Fed chairman or chairwoman, even more rate cuts will be possible if economic data pushes in that direction. If you consider that, it's possible. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen for sure. It's baked in the cake, nothing like that. But it's something to consider. Because I only see considerations for terrible things happening all the time. And I'm not a permabull. I'm just suggesting, what if something good happens? My God, it's what a crazy notion, right? Oh, what if none of these terrible things happen and actually we end up having better things than we actually hoped for and faster? What? This guy is talking madness, man. This guy's crazy, right? No. Everything has to be horrible and horrifying all the time. One thing that I wanted to talk about, because I did a big video about this, I've been forgetting to cover this in my video, so I'm going to do it now. You remember, I came and I made a video because even my LinkedIn was filled with Michael Burry huge puts on AI stocks and tech stocks and all of this. And he's the guy who did, the guy from The Big Short who predicted the collapse of the financial markets in 2008 is now betting very big against AI stocks. And what I pointed out was, look, this guy has been predicting a crash like this every year for 10 years. So this guy is like a Peter Schiff. He got the one right call once, all those years ago, and he's still milking it after all these years, and he's been wrong ever since. Once a year, he makes a massive prediction of a massive collapse. Sometimes he even predicts World War III. He predicted World War III back in 2017. And guess what? A few weeks after I made that video, this guy was closing his fund for underperformance. He's now gone. Now, the news about him closing his fund for underperformance are about this size compared to the publicity of him buying puts. So this tells you, and this explains why you see nothing but people pulling their heads out and with the eyes bleeding and all of this kind of stuff in the thumbnails on every YouTube channel, because that's what sells. Here is a guy making a massive short position again and getting annihilated again and closing his fund on the process, but the closing of his fund on the process gets 25% of the attention of his prediction. This is the world we live in. Now, Bitcoin is at around 88K. Ethereum is at around close to $3,000. Liquidity is starting to pour in more aggressively as the government has opened again. This should continue. There's high potential for better news, of course, coming from the resolution of the conflict in Europe. More room for rate cuts, blah, blah, blah. We know the story. And now we have something extremely interesting. The KOLs are in panic mode because they've told their followers they're out and that their followers should be out as well. So basically, they gave financial advice blatant, in my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. You tell me. And now they're in panic mode because if the 4-year cycle doesn't repeat as it used to, why should people keep on paying these KOLs and financial expert services if they get something this wrong? Good question, right? Here is my feeling. I'll make you the prediction of what they're going to do. They will say one of two things. They will say, oh, I always said it was possible that we would make new all-time highs. I gave it some probability. So I was actually right. We made new all-time highs. It was possible. So I say I was right. Others will just make predictions about Bitcoin 150K, 175K, and pretend they never said the bad things that the cycle was over. So they'll just pretend that never happened. Maybe even delete some videos and some posts. This is if the conditions mean more than the 4-year cycle. So to go back, we have two camps right now fighting. And we're going to see who's right very soon. Quite simple. One camp argues for the 4-year cycle. That means it's a 4-year cycle. It will always be a 4-year cycle. Nothing else matters. It's set in stone. It's like the Moses commandments. It's like Jesus Christ's word. It is the word of God. 4 years, nobody cares. You buy on the 4th. You buy at the bottom of the bear market after 12 months of bear market. You buy it. You hold it. You count it. When you get to the year 4 of the cycle, you sell it. That's it. Everyone knows about it. All of us knows about it. Institutions knows about it. Governments knows. Everybody knows about it. And it's 4-year cycle because it's the word of God. That's it, period. There's nothing you can do. So that's one camp. The other camp is the 4-year cycle has been 4 years because it coincided with certain conditions that used to be 4 years. Global liquidity, business cycle used to be 4-year cycles. In 2021, that was moved to 5.5 years. Basically, that's it. Now it can be a little bit overextended, a little bit underextended, so call it somewhere around those levels, okay? And basically the top will happen once those conditions hit the top again, just like before. But before they were on 4-year cycles, and in 2021 they were moved to 5.5 cycles. So now the conditions are not being seen under 4 years. So for example, global liquidity has not peaked, and business cycle is still under 50 instead of being close to 60. So those conditions have not repeated. Since they have not repeated, because the average maturity of the government debt has been extended from 4 years to 5.4, 5.5 years, then the cycle will be 5.5 years instead of 4, because the conditions have changed. So these are the two camps. One camp argues that it's 4-year cycles because it's the word of God, period. What other explanation? No other explanation. It's just 4-year cycles. Remember it. That's it. It's written in stone. There's nothing you can do about it. The other people say it used to be 4-year cycles because the conditions were under 4 years, but now they are under 5.5 years. Who will be right? Quite simple. Next year, in particular, it's going to be very obvious. If Bitcoin is putting in a new all-time high in 2026, then the 4-year cycle people, in which all the KOLs almost are, and all the financial experts, all of them will be wrong. Forever. And discredited forever. While the other ones will be right. And what's going to happen is, because the KOLs need your money to survive, they will either pretend they never said the cycle was over, or they will say, look, I gave it some probability that the cycle would continue, so I'm actually right. So I'm always right. If it continues, I'm right. If it doesn't continue, I'm right. I'm always right. So that will be a very interesting setup that we will have to see. Now the market seems to be recovering from that massive drought of liquidity during the government shutdown, which is now over and done. And now liquidity will start slowly pouring in back into the market. Fear is at an extreme level, which is good. That's always something that I like. Maybe this is a dead count bounce. Also possible. Maybe you're going to go to 77, 78K next. Also possible. We know how it is. It's not our first rodeo. We've seen these corrections over and over again. There's nothing special about it. And there was someone in my comment section talking about, oh, Bitcoin is down 34, 35%, so that's a bear market. That's it, it's over. I'm like, you do understand that in crypto, it doesn't work as a normal bear market. Take, for example, the year of 2017. 2017, the golden year of crypto. Bitcoin went up like 20x during that year. So it went from a little bit underneath $1,000 to $20,000 at the peak in December 2017. Now, throughout that period, as Bitcoin did a 20x, it went down 30% plus 5 times. So according to this person, Bitcoin did a 20x in a year, but it had 5 bear markets. You see how ridiculous that sounds, right? Bear market is like 2018, 2022, where the thing drops 85% and there's no recovery, and that's the way it is. The rest is just volatility, because Bitcoin is the best performing asset of all time. You have to pay a price for it. It's called volatility. And with that, thank you very much for your support, guys. Don't forget, I'm not here to give you financial advice. I'm not here to guide you. That's why I don't charge you money for anything. Everything is free. I'm just broadcasting how I think. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the KOLs will all be right, and it was all set in stone with a 4-year cycle. Possible. They can be right. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. And with that, thank you very much for your support, guys. Like and subscribe. And I will catch you in the next one.